fingers. Hold on. I'll help you up.
Well, Naughty Dog have gone and done it again. When it comes to blending narrative and gameplay and creating an adventure so grand and epic that it's almost like the best of action movies. You can be both participant and audience though, and there's just no one better. Naughty Dog does it better than any other developer, and Uncharted 4 is just another shining example of this. I would say that right out of the gate, this isn't quite on the same level as Uncharted 2 when it comes to, action and mind-blowing set pieces. But on the other hand, it does give The Last of Us a run for its money with the gripping story stakes. And, Drake hasn't hung up his holster yet or given up leaping off collapsing buildings. It's just that this game feels like it has a little more heart to it. The story beats and the character development just seem to be a little more refined this time. And I think that if one lesson was taken from The Last of Us, it was that grounding the story in human relationships can be just as potent as epic set pieces like a train derailing, and it just feels like everything in this game matters more than it has in previous games. And I think this definitely struck a deeper chord with me the further I got into the game. I realised that the ultimate goal and the treasure of A Thief's End was becoming less and less important to me, and that the ultimate fate of the characters and their relationships actually grew in importance. Everyone always loved Nate and Sullivan and Elena, and their quippy banter and occasionally heartfelt confessions to one another, but in Uncharted 4 I felt as though I really cared about them a lot more. You're given insight into their true natures and why they've stuck together for so many years, despite Nathan Drake being a mess of conflicting motivations and desires. And generally just a bit of a prick sometimes. Of course, this being Naughty Dog, the intelligent writing is played out in a smart and subtle way by performances from the cast, and then these are intertwined with exciting gameplay in between. The introductions of a handful of player-dictated conversation trees also keeps you engaged, and although I didn't notice too much difference in the outcome based on whether or not I decided to engage in these conversations, it's nice nonetheless. The big action moments in this game aren't quite on the same level as some of the ones in Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 3, but unfortunately that's a problem that I think Naughty Dog's created for itself. Those two games were on another level in terms of structure, especially the second one, and plotting and set out of these big action pieces, and I think it's been smart in the way they've gone about making this one. It's kind of tonally different to those, and it's more emotionally engaging this time around. If you can't match the feats of the last two games, aim for a different peak, and I think that's what they've done here. There's a good amount of leaping and running and shooting still, and there's a couple of absolutely incredible chase sequences that match the best escapes from the entire series, but the spectacle is spread out over the game more evenly this time. There are some absolutely incredibly rendered landscapes in this game, and some of the bigger areas are fully explorable, and there's also insanely detailed buildings and ruins that only get more and more breathtaking as the game progresses and the further you get into it. I did find the opening couple hours of the game to be slightly slower. The pacing of the adventure definitely picks up, but overall it's consistently excellent. Less of the peaks and troughs of previous games, and again the game shifts the emphasis from fighting and shooting to puzzles and climbing and exploration. And obviously these are interspersed with cinematics to allow you to have a bit of a breather, and it all gradually builds towards a climactic finish. Not all the additions in this Uncharted are just about the characters though, and Naughty Dog have definitely added a good new addition in form of the grappling hook, which makes for some greater variation in world traversal. It freshens up that experience whilst also allowing for more vertical encounters with enemies. Swinging around the landscape definitely has plenty of escapist fantasy about it, but also opens up the maps wonderfully, and I think Naughty Dog has taken full advantage of this. On top of this, I found that there was a much heavier emphasis on stealth in this game, and I actually wonder how much influence The Last of Us played here again. And whilst you don't really need to manage your resources like you did with Joel in The Last of Us, Drake is pretty vulnerable when he's faced with an army of enemies, and he quite often is. So, sneaking through grass and working your way around them is an option. Obviously, direct attack is possible as well, but that's more risky. And picking off enemies is very satisfying. I'd like to also give a shout out to the team who designed the companion AI, because in The Last of Us, Ellie would run in front of enemies and just not get noticed, which was a bit immersion breaking, whereas in this, Sam definitely seems to hide more and stay out of sight of the enemies rather than running around in clear view all the time. Being faced with all these enemies in a certain place sometimes feels like a puzzle. You can tag them and then work out what the best way is to approach the situation, and even though that is sort of strategic and puzzle based in a sense, there are of course the real puzzles of the game, and I found that these were some of the most fun and interactive in the series to date, although not necessarily the most challenging. Perhaps it speaks to Naughty Dog that they wanted to keep the game moving at a nippy pace, and after the opening and once the adventure starts proper, it does whiz along at some rate of knots. But rather, I think that we've been spoiled again by the recent fare. In the face of like The Witness, Uncharted is almost like primary school level puzzles. It's they can be ridiculously easy, but I did still enjoy them, and I like the way that Nathan jots down clues and drawings in his journal. That's always a nice touch, but they're not so much of a brain teaser and will only take a few minutes to solve. Tonally, the whole game feels very, very good. There's a openness to the game that I really enjoy, and there's always been an approachability to all the characters in Uncharted, which I really love. You really learn to love the characters. They're all really likeable and all fantastically acted. So this game it's really top drawer. Is it the best game on PlayStation 4? I don't know about that. Maybe not in my opinion, but in terms of production, it's absolutely incredible and a game that everyone should pick up.